In the beginning of the story, we see a jail built on a deserted hill. Today, new prisoners were being brought to this jail. One of these prisoners was Edmund. As soon as Edmund met the warden of the jail, he said, "Sir, help me. I did nothing. I have been sent here on false charges." The warden replied, "I know, if you had done anything, you would have been kept in a jail in the country, so far away. In this jail, only those people are brought against whom a conspiracy has been made." After this, the warden beat Edmund badly, and then locked him in a room in the jail. There was a wooden door, and a small window in the room. This door used to open only once a year, when the warden used to come to beat the prisoners for no reason. As time passed, Edmund, who was locked in a room alone, became very worried. He wrote on the wall, "God, give me justice." But slowly, after 12 years spent in jail, he lost faith in God. He felt that he will spend his whole life in this jail. Then one day, suddenly the floor of his room began to shake. Seeing this, Edmund got scared. He felt as if a ghost had entered his room. After a while, Edmund saw a man coming out of the ground. This man was Abe, who was a prisoner on the floor below. For the last 5 years, Abe was digging a tunnel. Fate made such a turn that the tunnel came straight into Edmund's room. As if God had a sign of Abe's arrival. Edmund had found a companion with whom he could talk because he had been alone in the room for a long time and was getting crazy. After this, Abel called Edmund to his room with great enthusiasm. Edmund was very happy that he would not have to spend time making marks on the wall with stones. And as soon as Edmund entered Abel's room, he was surprised to see the view there. Like the rest of the prisoners, Nietzsche was a good guy, you can say, like a hotel. There were chairs for his comfort and bedsheets on the shelf. No, how many books did Abene Edmund read? He promised that if he helps him in the excavation of the tunnel, the rest of the children can teach him in time. By the way, Abene Edmund did not have anything special to do, so he immediately agreed. After this, they were about to start the work of the excavation, when they heard the sound of the guard's footsteps. With fear, trembling, Abene Edmund immediately went to his room. He ran away and quickly prepared a garbage basket, because his guards were coming. He was about to come to the floor as well. The door of the room opens only twice. Once to pick up the garbage in the morning and once to serve dinner in the evening. Apart from this, both had a lot of time throughout the day, in which they could easily dig a tunnel without worrying about getting caught. After this, Abe cut a small piece of his hair and burned it with a stone spark. He lit a candle with the help of his hair. And then both of them started digging in the tunnel. There was very little space in the tunnel, so it was very difficult to dig there. Abe assumed that if the work continued at this rate, it would take at least 3 years to reach the outside of the ground. One day while resting, Edmund learned from Abe's book that Abe was once a very skilled swordsman and soldier. After knowing this, Edmund insisted. He said that if Abe does not teach him swordsmanship, he will not dig the tunnel ahead. Now Edmund had only one goal in his life, to take revenge on his enemies. After listening to his words, Abe finally agreed and was ready to teach him the rules of war. Abe began to explain to Edmund that the greatest strength of a warrior is his speed. He thought of teaching Edmund a technique by using the drops of water dripping in the room. He passed his hand under the dripping water stream so fast that it did not even get wet. Then he said, "The day your hands will be so fast, that day you will become a worthy warrior." After this, Abe went back to digging. There Edmund continued his practice. A few days later, Abe made a fake sword from the cracks of the wooden door and started teaching Edmund swordplay. When Edmund's sword fighting training was over, he focused on his studies. Now his whole day was spent in the study, digging and sword fighting practice. After a few months of hard work, Edmund's sword fighting improved dramatically. Abe saw it clearly that Edmund has now become a better swordsman than him. One evening, during a conversation, Edmund found out that Abe used to work for a very rich family called Stadia. Abe told him that his owner had collected a lot of treasure, and Napoleon imprisoned him to get information about this treasure. Hearing this, Edmund was very angry because he was also imprisoned for the fraud of Napoleon. Day by day, the digging of the tunnel was taking him closer to freedom. One day, he saw the roots of the plants in the ground of the tunnel. Abe guessed that now they were very close to getting out. Knowing this news, there was no place for both their happiness. But soon something happened that mixed all their happiness in the soil. The tunnel suddenly started shaking violently, and then with a loud voice, a lot of stones and soil fell on them. Abe was buried under these stones. Afraid, Edmund immediately started removing the stones and somehow pulled Abe out. In fact, he made a mistake by digging in the wrong direction. He made a mistake in the tunnel digging because a box of food had also fallen from above. A heavy stone fell on Abe's chest, which seriously injured him. Due to the wound in the lungs, his condition was very delicate, and now his life could have been lost at any time. In his last moments, Abe told Edmund in a weak voice there is a book hidden under a stone in his room. There is a special thing hidden under that book. When Edmund went there and saw it, he found a map of a treasure. It was the same treasure that Abe was imprisoned for knowing about it. Seeing the map, Edmund was surprised. Abe promised him that he would always use this wealth for good deeds and stay away from evil. Edmund promised. But after a while, Abe took his last breath. Edmund had tears in his eyes. He felt as if he was alone again. Then the guard brought food and Edmund hid behind the wall. The guard called out, but there was no answer. In doubt, he came inside and was scared to see Abe's body. He quickly went to report his seniors. Edmund took advantage of the situation and hid the face of the tunnel and moved back. After a while, the guard returned with some of his companions and put Abe's body in a body bag. Edmund hid inside the tunnel and waited for them to leave. As soon as the guards left, Edmund quietly returned to the room and started looking at Abe's body. Looking at the body, he had a plan in his mind. He immediately decided to take Issa instead of Abe's body. After some time, the warden came to take the body with his men. Since this jail was on a deserted hill, he decided that it would be best to throw the body into the sea. Meanwhile, a guard took food to Edmund's room. He knocked on the door again and again, but got no answer. Seeing this, the guard doubted. When he opened the door, Edmund was not there. Instead, he saw Abe's body. Seeing this, the guard got scared and ran to call the warden. The warden wanted to get this job done as soon as possible. It was a stormy day and the waves of the sea were crashing against the rocks, making it very difficult to hear anything. Trying to understand the words of the warden guard, Edmund quickly stole his keys. But in this effort, the balance of the warden deteriorated and he fell into the sea with Edmund. As soon as he fell into the water, Edmund quickly freed himself from the ropes with the help of the keys. As soon as he came to the surface, he turned around and looked at the warden. For years, the anger in his heart was eager to come out. Edmund mercilessly caught the warden and drowned him in the water until he died. After that, he swam far into the sea without looking back. The next morning, when Edmund regained consciousness, he found himself on a small island. He did not understand how he got here alive. But this relief did not last long. Because he saw that a group of sea bandits were staring at him. Edmund thought that his death was certain, but the leader of the bandits, Luigi, gave him a chance. Luigi said that he can leave Edmund alive, but on one condition. Edmund will have to fight his traitorous companion Jacopo, who he was going to kill anyway. Now he was put in front of Edmund. If Jacopo had won, he would have been again included in the team of sea bandits, but Edmund would have been killed. On the other hand, if Edmund had won, he would have been released. As soon as the competition began, the two fought with all their might to save their lives. Jacopo was very good at swordsmanship, but the skill Edmund had learned from Abe proved even more dangerous. Jacopo tried to attack many times, but could not even touch Edmund. Seeing the right opportunity, Edmund attacked quickly and dropped Jacopo on the ground. However, instead of killing Jacopo, Edmund looked at Luigi and said, "Look, we are both useful to you. Why are you killing us for no reason? It is not easy to find good robbers." Edmund's talent and his mercy influenced Luigi a lot. He spared both their lives. Later, while talking on the ship, Edmund told Luigi his whole story. After hearing his story, Luigi allowed Edmund to go on his way so that he could take his revenge. Jacopo, whose life Edmund had saved, was ready for his loyalty. He promised that he would always support Edmund. Edmund asked Jacopo to arrange a ship so that he could finish some of his important work. In the dark of the night, Edmund reached his old master's house. But everything had changed. When he met his master, he did not even recognize Edmund. Knowing this, Edmund was deeply saddened that his father had died in the grief of his going to jail. But the biggest wound was when he found out that his oldest and most trusted friend Montague had betrayed him. The same Montague, who had married his fiancée after trapping Edmund. This revelation ignited the fire of revenge within Edmund. He searched every nook and cranny of Tapu for the treasure, but found nothing. That's when he remembered that the treasure might be under the water. He took a dip in an underground pond at the place mentioned on the map. He saw many old chests under the water. As soon as Edmund opened the first chest, it was sparkling with gold coins and jewels. Jacopo jumped with joy. And as much as he could, he filled the boat with gold. But to take all the treasure, he needed a big ship. Edmund now had immense wealth, but more than his happiness, the fire of revenge was burning. He decided that this treasure would only be used for revenge. First of all, Edmund bought a magnificent and luxurious house. He presented himself as a new rich man of France. Soon, he organized a grand party in his new house and invited all the rich men of France. His royal feasts and grand style soon made him famous in the upper class of the society. Rich people were now taking interest in Edmund, but in fact it was all a trick of Edmund so that his deceitful friend Montague would pay attention to him. But Montague left the party without showing any interest. Edmund's ex-fiancée Mercedes and her family were now completely dependent on Montague. Edmund decided that he would destroy Montague so that it would be difficult for him and his family to arrange money from anywhere else. Meanwhile, Jacopo informed Edmund that Montague also has a son whose name is Albert. Hearing this, Edmund made a plan. He got Albert's fake kidnapping done with the help of a beautiful woman and his looted friends. The plan was that Edmund would become a messiah and save him and win Montague's trust. The plan worked perfectly. Albert thought that Edmund had saved his life. Being thankful, Albert said to Edmund, "It's my birthday in a few days. I want you to come." Edmund showed some tantrums, but eventually agreed. In the birthday party, Albert introduced his father Montague to Edmund. This was the first time in 13 years when Edmund and Montague were face to face. However, Edmund's appearance had changed so much that Montague did not recognize him. In the party, Edmund influenced the other guests with his talks and shows. But Wilfred, who was a corrupt magistrate and had full control over the police in the area, was fooled by Edmund's intentions. After Edmund's words, Wilfred conspired with Montague. Their plan was to loot Edmund's treasure before it arrived and get hold of all the gold. Montague said that there is a special person to help him in this work. He was the same person who helped Edmund in sending him to jail years ago. Edmund deliberately brought these three together so that he could carry out his revenge plan. After the party was over, Edmund got the news that Montague had spread rumors of his death and convinced everyone that Edmund had been hanged. Edmund was worried that if this lie spread too much, his revenge plan could go wrong. That's why he decided to ignore this rumor for now. But his real anger was on Montague. He called Montague separately and told him his real identity. Edmund reminded Montague how he ruined his life for his greed and deception. Then, without showing any mercy, Edmund killed Montague. But before that, he made him realize his mistake. Now Edmund's next target was Wilfred, the same corrupt magistrate who trapped Edmund on the pretext of Napoleon's letter. Edmund also knew that Wilfred had himself killed his father to increase his power. Edmund very cleverly revealed his truth to Wilfred during the conversation. Wilfred thought that Edmund would not be able to prove his words, so he accepted everything without thinking. But he did not know that the police were already in the room. The police heard everything he said and arrested him immediately. On the other hand, Mouamapoy, who was now bankrupt, was preparing to run away. He went to the fort where he had hidden the treasure he had stolen. But when he opened the chest, it was only sand in it. In the last chest, he found only a small chase piece. This was the same chase piece he had ever given to Edmund. At the same time, Edmund reached there. Montague didn't take long to understand who Edmund was. Frightened by his anger and fear, Montague attacked Edmund with his sword. But he couldn't fight Edmund. Edmund easily dropped his sword and stuck it to the wall. As soon as Edmund was about to attack Montague for the last time, Albert came in between and shouted, "I won't let my father die like this." In the meantime, Montague took advantage of the situation and quietly started filling his gun with bullets and explosives. As soon as Montague tried to fire the bullet, Edmund quickly attacked him and knocked him down. Then there was a last fierce fight between the two. Montague tried to defeat Edmund with all his strength, and once it felt like he would win. But in the end, Edmund knocked Montague down and attacked him. Montague froze there. Seeing his fire of revenge cool down, Edmund finally found peace. He now decided to start his new life. Edmund decided to live with his wife Mercedes and son Albert so that he can ensure that no one has to bear all that he has endured. Thanks for watching this video. See you in the next video.